I never imagined I'd be writing this. Not me, not the guy who thought he had it all figured out, career, family, and love. But life has a way of throwing curveballs, doesn't it? And when you least expect it, you find yourself standing at the edge of a cliff, wondering how you got there. My wife, Emma, and I have been together for 12 years, married for 7. I met her in college, and I swear it was love at first sight. She was everything I wanted in a partner: smart, funny, beautiful, and most importantly, she got me. But we connected on a level I hadn't thought was possible. I was the guy who never believed in soulmates or any of that cheesy stuff. But with Emma, it felt like maybe those things were real. We built a life together, the kind that everyone around us envied. Good jobs, a cozy house, trips to exotic places when we could spare the time, and plans for a future that seemed bright, or at least I thought so. Looking back, maybe there were warning signs, but when you're in the thick of it, when you're wrapped up in the routine of everyday life, it's easy to miss them. A few months ago, things started to shift, but I couldn't put my finger on exactly what it was. Emma seemed different. It wasn't anything drastic, just small things. She was more distant, buried in her phone more often than usual, and would zone out during our conversations. At first, I didn't think much of it. We both had demanding jobs, and I figured she was stressed out. She worked in marketing and had just taken on a new project that required long hours. I assumed it was just a phase. But as time went on, the distance grew. She started coming home late more often, claiming that her project deadlines were suffocating her. Our intimacy, which had always been strong, started to fade. I tried initiating conversations about it, but each time she'd brush me off, saying she was just exhausted. One night, I found myself lying awake, staring at the ceiling, a pit forming in my stomach. I hadn't wanted to admit it to myself, but I couldn't ignore the gut feeling anymore. Something was wrong, really wrong. I had to know. That's when I did something I swore I'd never do. I looked at her phone. She had left it on the nightstand, and curiosity got the better of me. It was a violation of trust, and I knew it, but at that moment, I needed answers. My hands were shaking as I unlocked her phone, heart pounding like a jackhammer in my chest. I opened her messages, and there it was. A text chain with a guy named Josh. It wasn't hard to figure out what was happening. The messages were flirty, then increasingly explicit. There were dates mentioned, meetups after work, and inside jokes I'd never heard of. She was sharing a whole part of her life with him that I didn't even know existed. My stomach churned, and I thought I might be sick. I kept reading, going back weeks, maybe months. The things she said to him, the way she spoke to him, it wasn't just physical. It was emotional. There were messages like, "I miss you and I can't wait to see you again." It was as if I had been erased, replaced by this guy who had become the center of her world. I put the phone down and sat there in the dark for what felt like hours. I couldn't wrap my head around it. How could she do this? How could she come home to me every night, kiss me goodnight, and then text him in secret? I didn't confront her right away. Instead, I carried that weight with me for days, letting it eat away at me. I started seeing every moment with her through a different lens. Every smile, every touch, every word seemed tainted by what I knew. It felt like my life had been split into two before I knew, and after. The breaking point came one Friday night. She came home late again. She looked exhausted, or maybe it was guilt. I couldn't tell anymore. She walked over to me, smiled that same smile that had once made my heart skip a beat, and leaned in to kiss me. I pulled away. She looked at me, surprised, maybe even hurt. "What's wrong?" she asked, her voice laced with confusion. I stared at her for a moment, my chest tight, and then the words came out before I could stop them. "I don't want to taste your lover's lips." Her face went pale. Her eyes widened, and she stepped back, her hand covering her mouth. She didn't need to ask what I meant. She knew. There was a long, deafening silence between us. I could feel my heart pounding in my ears as I watched her unravel. I think part of me had expected some grand, angry confrontation, but instead she crumbled right there in front of me. "It's not what you think," she started, but even she didn't believe her own words. I could hear the tremble in her voice. "Not what I think," I repeated, incredulous. "So you're not sleeping with him? You're not meeting up with him after work? Because I've seen the texts, Emma. I've seen it all." Her eyes filled with tears, and she took a step toward me. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "It was a mistake. I didn't mean for it to happen." There it was again. That word mistake, as if cheating on me for months was just a misstep, a momentary lapse in judgment. I felt a surge of anger rise in my chest. But more than that, I felt an overwhelming sense of betrayal. You didn't mean for it to happen, I scoffed. So every time you texted him, every time you kissed him, that wasn't a choice. You didn't mean to lie to me. You didn't mean to keep me in the dark for months. She broke down then, her sobs filling the space between us. She kept saying she was sorry, kept repeating that it was over, that she'd made a terrible mistake and she wanted to fix things. But all I could think about was how I had been the last to know, how I had been living a lie while she carried on with someone else behind my back. I walked to the door, grabbing my jacket. She followed me, still crying, begging me not to leave. "Please don't go," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "We can fix this. I love you." But I couldn't even look at her anymore. Every time I did, all I saw was the betrayal, the lies, the night she'd spent with him. "I can't do this," I said quietly, opening the door. "I can't be with someone who betrayed me like this. I don't even know who you are anymore." She collapsed onto the floor, sobbing as I walked out. It's been a month since that night, and I'm still trying to make sense of it all. We're separated now, though she keeps texting me asking for another chance. Part of me wants to believe that we can fix it, that the woman I fell in love with is still in there somewhere. But the other part of me knows that the trust we once had is shattered, and I don't know if it can ever be rebuilt. I haven't made any decisions yet. I'm living in limbo, trying to figure out what to do. Every time I think about going back, though, I remember the taste of betrayal. How do you move past something like that? How do you kiss the lips that have kissed someone else? I guess time will tell. For now, I'm just taking it one day at a time. Thanks for reading, Reddit. I don't know if I'll ever have the answers, but it helps to know I'm not alone. Thank you for joining me on this emotional journey. Betrayal is never easy, and healing takes time, but sharing our stories can help us find strength and clarity. If you found this story impactful, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more. And remember, sometimes walking away is the first step toward reclaiming your peace. Stay strong, and I'll see you in the next one.